Welcome to our third video in a three-part video series about the adoption process and how it works at the York County SPCA. In the first video, we gave an overview, sort of introduced some concepts, gave you some data. In the second video, we gave you some pro tips on how to get ready for adoption. And in this third video, Karen and I want to introduce you to a concept that we call Adopters Welcome Philosophy. And the Adopters Welcome Philosophy is about removing barriers to adoption. And the premise of the Adopters Welcome Philosophy begins with this idea that a very small fraction of pets, like less than 6%, will ever become homeless. In other words, most people who adopt a pet are going to do right by that animal. That animal is going to have a great experience in a comfortable home with a family. And so we don't want to align our processes and our protocols and our policies trying to come up with ways or reasons not to adopt people. So we don't want to come up with all these unnecessary barriers to adoption that makes people jump through a million hoops before they can walk out the door with that pet. Because when we make people prove to us that they're worthy enough to have one of our animals, that ends up frustrating people, and then they just end up going on and finding other ways to acquire a pet. And then that's how shelters get full really quickly. So that's the idea behind Adopters Welcome. Another one is that we assume positive intent and that most people are going to do right by those pets that they want to adopt. We assume that people know more about their lifestyle and what responsibilities they're able to take on than we know about their lifestyle. So what we do is we try to use our professional judgment and our knowledge of the animals, the information that they give us on the adoption application, and we help guide people through that process rather than ferret out a reason not to adopt a people. And so the last thing I'm going to say about this concept of Adopters Welcome Philosophy is that we think about who our competition is. So there's two ways, generally speaking, that people can acquire a pet. They can adopt a pet from a shelter like ours, or they can purchase a pet. And purchasing a pet is our competition. And so if we make the adoption process frustrating, we're going to discourage people from adopting an animal, so they're going to choose the other option, which is purchase a pet, because it's a lot easier and it's less judgmental. So we need to rise to the occasion of being as good as our competition and make it as enjoyable of an experience while being responsible as we can. And that's the ideas of Adopters Welcome Philosophy. So Carrie, will you give us examples of how we've removed barriers to adoption?
Yes. It was really important for us when we really started doing this in 2020 to show our adopters that we trust them, to ask them for information about their lives. So that's when we changed from an adoption application to an adoption questionnaire. And the questionnaire is really a conversational approach where we get to know the adopter and their home life. What would fit best into that home? We removed breed stereotypes. We also just really take our time getting to know the people and their families and have a really honest discussion about the pets that they're interested in bringing into their home. The other things that we do is occasionally we remove adoption fees.
Okay.
And that is something that I know we do get questioned on quite often, but it's a way to get people in our door. It's a way to get people to come in and experience our animals, to meet them. And what we found, again, if I can go back to our return to shelter rate, is that we're not seeing a significance in return to shelter when we have free adoptions or when we are charging an adoption fee. There's a lot of people that just see it, get excited about it, it's an event, and so they come in our door that day and they choose to adopt. So we do...
Yeah, and it's like a marketing technique,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And so when we remove, people will say when we remove fees, adoption fees, that means that if those people can afford the fee, does that mean that that's a good home for that animal? What is our perspective on that?
Yeah, we believe that that is a perfectly acceptable and fine home for their animal. In fact, if they're saving the adoption fee, then they're using that fee to go to something else, something for that animal, to support that animal in their home.
Okay, so there you go. So those are just a few examples of ways that we try to remove barriers to adoption and to make the adoption process more meaningful. The last thing I'd like to do before we end this video is to point out our merchandise. So Carrie and I are wearing our fall fashion. Please consider purchasing our merchandise. It supports our programs and it also helps promote our mission of saving animal lives.